And you were saying to me the other day that you've just upgraded to a new line.
Yes, yeah, that was a big purchase. We'd squeezed it through the tiniest extractor for the longest time. I was actually down there still, and I haven't set it all up. We've moved to a new shed. But for the longest time we've just put everything into the bees, the equipment, the boxes, the frames, the foundation. And now with this distributor, it's jars and it's labels and label machines, and but the processing side has just been left wanting. And the gear is just so expensive, so we just were holding off and holding off. Uh, and now it's just sort of now, well, this is the year we take the plunge and just buy a proper setup. And yeah, started looking around and found one up in Glen Innes. A guy was getting out. And so we thought, well, we'll swoop on that one. Yeah.
So what kind of extraction line is it?
So we jumped in scale, so I think I'll have to grow into it. But it's an old Penrose uncapper, the old New Zealand automatic uncapper,
Yep.
uh, with a long tray on it, so you can sort of chain driven, and a wax reducer underneath it, 100 frame extractor. I have an old 80 frame extractor as well. We were still hand uncapping. I mean, it was just torturous.
hmm
So, um, but yeah, it'll be good when we plug it all in. I've got to hook up a boiler. I've got to get three phase. We do raw honey right now, so I'm really cautious about running any kind of heat
hmm
near our honey. So I'll have to figure out a way to it's a steam uncapper with the where the knives are. So um, but I'm stoked. I'm really stoked. It'll be a great efficiency for sure. So no more late nights. I was down there about an hour ago, so pulling honey today. So
Yeah, late nights and honey extracting. So I do most of my honey extracting at night because
yeah,
my shed's not bee proof.
yeah, right. Yeah, they'll
Yeah,
fly.
yeah. So for years, I was struggling with bees getting in, and eventually I talked to a friend. He said, "Why don't you just extract at night?" And I said, "Ah, that's a great idea. I'll do that."
Yeah,
And it really does help, but it does make a very long day.
it does. Yeah, especially with kids and everything else. You get home and then you've got to wake up and go again. I mean, today was a good solid sort of 14-hour day. So. But the days are getting longer, which is great, and but I guess that just makes the nights even longer as well. But we're sort of used to it now. I just got back from a week over in Margaret River, and I couldn't really time-wise afford the holiday. But it was just a mad push to get everything done. We had a huge order come through, and then another one on top of that, and then we picked up these new clients, and it was just go time, up until I was packing my bags to get on the plane. So, but yeah, that just makes it exciting.
hmm Now you're up on the New South Wales border. How are you feeling about Varroa?
Uh,
Getting closer?
yeah, a buddy texted me. It's in Lismore, which is about 45 minutes from here.
Yep.
So, I mean, technically, a bee that has it could probably make it, with a bit of a headwind or with a bit of a tailwind could get to us. Um, I think this will probably be the last season that we have without it. Probably show up in winter, given how fast it's sort of spreading. It's inevitable. But it's sort of that, excitement and terror. It's like COVID, can we just get it and get it over with, that sort of thing, and then I can start figuring out whether or not some of the plans I have to manage it are actually going to work. So you have all this information, but you know, no ability to actually do anything yet until we get it. I'm not saying I want it. We can keep it away for as long as possible. A lot of our hives are fairly remote, um, tucked away, but yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I talked to a buddy of mine last night in Norway, and he was telling me they've had Varroa since 1992 or 1994, one of those two, and it's still not in the whole country yet.
Wow,
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
wow,
So it's 30 years in the country, and it still hasn't spread everywhere yet.
wow, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
he's a queen breeder, and he was telling me that he always has to double check before he sells queens because he's in a Varroa region, and he has to check to see if it can be sent to the particular client's location. And I was surprised. I said, "Oh, are they on islands or something like that?" And he said, "No, on the main part of Norway. It's just that in that country they've figured out how to slow it right down, the movement.
Wow.
So that's pretty good."
Yeah, that sort of offers a bit of hope. Maybe we can do that, across the country somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, it's getting near to you as well, isn't it?
The
Oh, it's in
closest
Victoria.
sighting of it is 6 hours away up on the New South Wales border. So
Right.
not so close, but it's in a region you really don't want to see it, which is it's in the almond region.
Right.
And as you know, the people who go there, they go everywhere in Victoria. So if it's there, it's going to be here fairly soon, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a bit scary. Anyways, let's go to a question. So, uh, organic beekeeping. What are your thoughts about it? How do people achieve it?
Oh, well, this is interesting, man, because we just had two of our yards certified organic. We were doing certified organic ginger, and within the organic world, my background sort of horticulture, market gardening, things like that. So two of our yards on our property, which is certified organic, and on friends, which has a certified organic market garden. I went back to the certifying body, and 2 years ago they said, "Look, we don't really do bees. There's a lot of cowboys out there. It's hard to monitor all this other stuff." And I got back onto them this year, and they said, "Yeah, sure, we'll come out." And they just threw the paperwork at us. I mean, it's an auditing process that's just you just have to troll through. You go through everything. Where are the bees? Where do you move them? How many hives do you have? How much honey do you produce? What do you do it? The traceability. Um, all of that kind of paperwork side of thing is one side. But the management side is sort of another side. You have to kind of show how you work them. What do you put into the hives? What are your hives made of? What do you paint them with? Are you bringing in frames from other yards? That sort of stuff. So um, yeah, it's really tricky. It's very limiting in what you can do. But if you can get it, it sort of adds. It's sort of a force multiplier for your honey to say that it is certified organic. Basically, it's sort of drawing a 5K radius around your hives. Um, we don't move our hives; they're all stationary hives. We might move hives yard to yard, but once we set them up, they're there. They're there for good. Um,
And
and
why would you? You're in a beautiful area. I'll just say quickly,
yeah,
Aidan's just a little bit inland from Byron Bay and probably the nicest beekeeping area in the whole country.
well, it's interesting. I kind of envy the guys that move their hives because it's just like a continuous flow. Ours is, it's on and it's off and everything goes at once. It's really intense. We're pretty much coming to the end of it now. There's a few more things that might come along, but once that's it, that's it. And some of these guys that are pulling super crops of honey off their hives, I go, well, that was our crop this year, and now we wait for next year, which is kind of cool as well. I like it. I like that as well. Um, but yeah, it was a bonus to be able to get two of our yards certified organic.
That's interesting to say, what do you paint it with? So what can you paint it with to be organic?
I believe it was the copper naphthalate dips that they're worried about,
Yep.
or oil-based inside, I think. I'd have to check it. We were using just standard house paint on the outside of our wooden boxes, which is fine. We're moving away from wooden boxes. They just don't seem to last up here. Everything's just so wet. We've had the wettest years. And I've seen boxes that I bought 2 years ago just rot. It's crazy. And then we've got termites as well, and they just dissolve a box in a season. So if I'm paying 20, $30 for a box, I kind of want it to last longer than 2 years. So I've switched over to the new Plus guys, not
Hmm.
pushing products. I just think, that box will be a box forever. So
Yeah, sounds good. And so
mm.
I guess when Varroa comes, will you be doing organic treatments?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. We're obviously not allowed to use any of the synthetic chemicals. We're allowed to use formic, thymol, and oxalic acid.
Yeah, but not
Um,
amatraz.
Not Amatraz, no, not Baverol, taufluvalinate, those kind of things we're not allowed to use. I thought it was interesting when the auditor came out here that he wasn't aware of those synthetics persisting in the wax. And a lot of the inputs, when you're certified organic, a lot of the inputs have to be traced. So when we buy wax foundations, which we won't anymore for the certified, we've actually just bought a wax roller. So now we can do our own foundations. So we keep the
Oh,
wax in.
really?
Yeah. So those like amateurs will persist in the wax. I mean, wax is like the hive's liver, so that's where they'll put it. So
I
we
wonder,
have,
I wonder what, with that, sorry, just quickly.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's one of those rollers where you put the normal blank sheet through and it just creates the wax foundation.
correct.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's another job, that you
Yeah.
didn't really want, but
But that would be a nice winter job.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. In fact, actually, my dad, who does a lot of beekeeping with us as well, he comes down. He'll be turning 80 in a month. He has taken on the role of like master, chandler, wax maker. He renders all of our wax. He loves making the candles, and the illumination. He just a whole new world opened up for him there. So he just loves it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
great.
yeah, so he's taken on the role of making all of our foundations now, so we can just keep our wax in-house. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. So how are you going to make the actual blank sheet of wax?
Heat up and you should ask him, but I've been he's kept me up to date. But basically heat up wax liquid to liquid and then dunk a piece of plywood once or twice and then you sort of cut it off so it comes off the plywood and then you roll it through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it done that way.
Yeah.
Just we're interested to know what kind of method you use, but that looks like a great process. I'm really keen to get into that myself, actually.
Yeah, I imagine it would be satisfying knowing that you haven't bought wax from outside and who knows what's coming in on it now. I mean, before Varroa, it would be fine. Now I think a lot of the wax is probably going to be tainted,
Hmm.
uh, with Amatraz and all the other ones. Look,
Yeah.
not that there's anything wrong with that. I understand guys are going to have to use it. They're on different scale, different level. That's fine. But for us, we're probably not going to use it. Um, I say that now. We'll see how we go once Varroa gets here. We may lose certification and want to keep our bees alive through other methods. So,
Mm. Well, once again, chatting to my mate Mark last night in Norway, he said that I wasn't aware of this, but in Norway, they're not allowed to use non-organic treatments.
oh wow.
So yeah, they can only use the organic treatments such as oxalic and formic, and they're not allowed to use amitraz, which is crazy to think because a lot of times when you speak to people, they say that they couldn't do it without amitraz. So,
Mm.
but in Norway, the whole country is free of that.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. It sounds like a really progressive country, though, as far as, they just sort of looked to the end point and went, what are we seeing? And
Yeah, totally
everybody,
progressive. And another
yeah,
interesting thing that they do is that all the beekeepers in the country are part of a cooperative and everyone owns the cooperative together. So all the beekeepers have a certain share in the company and they
nice.
they pull all their honey and they bottle it. And if you want to buy honey in Norway, you've got to buy it from the cooperative. So they basically set the market price.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really good. So the price that they get for their honey is much higher than all the surrounding countries.
Yes. Yeah. That's a great idea. It's a good way of organizing and also protecting the industry. Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely. All right, let's head to the next question that's been sent in. Dealing with small hive beetle. Now, I wanted to give you this question, Aidan, because I know, as beautiful as it is in the northern parts of Australia, you do have more problems than I do with small hive beetle. How do you handle it?
Oh, it's look, I hate hive beetle. I love the natural world and everything it has to throw at us, but hive beetle is just such a pain in the ass. It really is. They just are always there. Um, there's a million different products, there's a million different methods. I mean, if you could break it down to just one, it would be hive strength, and you have to have strong hives that cover all of the real estate, that balance between keeping them tight but giving them space, you just can't have any room where the high beetle can just get established. I mean, they're always going to be there. Um, Having said that, I've got a couple methods that do work, but at the same time, the moment you lose strength in a hive, for whatever reason, they're just bang, they'll just let you know and you'll come back to a yard and you can tell. And this is another interesting thing we have here. I don't know if you've got patty melons, or sorry, bandicoots down there. Do you have bandicoots?
No,
They're like
no.
a
Yeah,
marsupial rat sort of thing. They just
yeah, I
dig.
know them. They're a cool looking animal.
Yeah, yeah. If you have a home garden, you hate them because they just dig up
Okay.
your bed, things like that. But normally you'll come back and you'll just see around the base of a hive just bandicoots been digging, 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 and they're just taking all of the larvae of the slimed out hive. So if you've missed it and you've come back, a week or two later, because it can happen overnight. It's insane how they just all hatch at once and that's it. There goes the hive. Um, so yeah, for us, it's hive strength, really keeping the strength of the hive up. We use like a blue shop cloth, like a Chucks, just always having them in there, and also just like the seasonality, knowing that now's the time when they're all going to be in there. When I crack a lid or we have inner covers, when I lift that up, you'll just fully expose all of the little prisons that the bees have just driven them into and slowly tried to propolize them. And so when you crack that lid, they just, hundreds of them just explode. And you just let them all out again. So really knowing, what am I doing? Do I need to go in here? Am I doing an inspection? Am I just taking a peek? Because you just undo work that the bees have had them penned for a couple of weeks and they just starve them out, that sort of thing. Um, the other one I do is I pool salt around the hives, which kind of does two things. One, it keeps the grass down because the grass just grows overnight here.
Mhm.
Um, it can just smother an entrance pretty quick. And obviously, the heat of a hive and the runoff from a roof, you've just got grass around your hive more than anywhere else.
Yeah, and I'll just
Um,
say quickly, Aidan, that if
mm,
anyone checks out your website after this, I really encourage people to check it out. There's a really cool video of you doing a beekeeping, and in that video, you can just see how lush your property is. And I could just imagine it would just grow like crazy.
yeah, it's amazing how fast. I mean, the turnover here is just crazy. That sort of growth, death, decay, that sort of rainforest. Yeah, it's very lush, very lush. Um, but and with that comes high beetle. I mean, I think what are we, 28 degrees? So that's if we were in the northern hemisphere, it'd be like middle of Florida, that kind of
Yep.
humid, that sort of range. So yeah, I use heaps of pool salt around our hives, which keeps the grass down, but it's like an old method that they used to use for cutworm in market gardens. They used to use salt around brassicas and things like that. So it actually desiccates the larva. So in the yards where I've put pool salt around, you can notice the hive beetles numbers are down. And I just completely avoid any shady areas, just full sun. As hot as it is to work in the full sun, any hive that's in the shade is just has hive beetle. Yeah, it's just a given.
Right. That's a good one. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that they went after shady hives.
Yeah, and bees that are sort of actively going or sort of dealing with high beetle are just more spicy. They just
Yep.
if they're there trying to defend against high beetle, they're just not happy. You can
Mhm.
just tell. And the other thing that's really interesting is there are bees that will actively go after high beetle. They'll bite them. They just won't leave them alone. I've watched a bee just sit there and slowly pull the legs off of a high beetle until it just couldn't move. And I've seen other bees where the high beetle just goes around underneath them and they don't even look at it. So, the ones that actively attack it, those are the ones I like to keep. Yeah.
So what percentage of hives would you say you'd lose on an annual basis to hive beetle?
Uh, 10%, something like that. Yeah.
Whoa. Oh, okay. That's a lot more than I
Yeah.
was expecting.
Well, it's again back on the strength thing. We are splitting like mad. That's been my sort of mantra is just, now that we have Varroa, it's just like, right, I need to get the numbers up so that I can kind of wear some of the losses and still be in the game as far as food production. So a lot of our hives that we lost were weaker as far as splits.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously I did late splits, and then you might get a system that comes through and it rains for 3 weeks and it's just no fresh nectar, no pollen. and they sit there, and the hive beetle come in and just go, "Yep, we'll take that." So you just lose, you'll lose nukes. Yeah, nukes will just be gone.
Okay.
So
So
uh,
maybe part of that 10% were colonies that weren't going to make it anyway, even if they didn't have hive beetle. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. I heard an interesting thing. I think it was Bob Binney. He was talking about a friend who mentioned that they take, over there, they're talking about winter losses all the time. Uh, he mentioned that he takes his winter losses in the fall. And I thought that was really interesting. I mean, it's where he deals with his hives that look like they're not going to make it through winter. He deals with them in autumn before he has to deal with them, at the end of winter. And so for us here, our winter isn't really winter, it's summer. We have to get them through summer. That's the hardest time when we lose hives is summer, when it rains for months and the nectar's done, there's no fresh pollen coming in and they're just sitting there. Um, yeah, if there's any weak hives, that's when you lose them. So I sort of look at any that aren't just up to strength. And I'm a big fan of recombining. If something's a little bit weak, I'll just boom, put it on a stronger hive and just put them back together. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, when you get a slime out, the frames are just gross. It's a mess.
Yeah, I've only seen it once because it's not a big issue here, and I haven't. They are in my colonies, but I haven't really seen it that much. But once I went to a hive in a big bird's nest. So it was a friend of mine had a hive in a bird's nest in their backyard, and I said I'd take care of it, and I brought it down, and it was completely full of hive beetle. I couldn't believe it, and
Yeah,
it looked disgusting.
yeah, yeah,
Couldn't
yeah. It
believe it.
stinks. It's like fermented. Um, they look like maggots. You lose honey. It's just gross. It's so
Yeah,
gross. So yeah.
yeah. All right. So tips there: chucks cloth, keep your hive strong, maybe a bit of salt, and keep it in the sun.
Absolutely,
Those are
yeah,
good
and
tips.
also, yeah, knowing when it's going to be. Now we're sort of in the prime time as far as high beetles. So when you pop those lids, you really do disturb all those little prisons that they've sort of cornered them in or corralled them in. They hold them there and they take turns and swap it out who's guarding them. So when you're in there, you just disturb all of that and they're just free to roam again. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, great. All right. Next question. How do you prevent honey from crystallizing in storage? I thought this would be a good question for you because what could I say you do? You basically pack honey, you
Yeah.
store it, and you send it to different cities.
Yeah, honey's our main um, crop, I guess. We sell nukes and things like that, but we're in for the honey, and it's at the first year we lost a lot of honey to crystallization. We have raw honey, we don't heat it, so um, crystallization is not a bad thing. You have to get the consumer to understand what it is. It really, if you flip the script, it's kind of a badge of honor. It tells you that it is raw. If it doesn't crystallize, somebody's heated it and cooked it and fried all the reason we eat honey, you destroy the amino acids, the phytochemicals, the enzymes. If you heat honey, it's kind of almost dead. You can taste it, but nothing against that. That's just not what we do. So raw honey will naturally crystallize, but for us, we sort of extract to order. So we don't take it all off at once and then sit it there. We'll keep it on the hives. It won't crystallize on the hives, unless, of course, you've got a certain type of honey, clover. I mean, I'm sure I think you're down there in the canola. That
Yeah.
crystallizes pretty readily. Yeah. Does
Oh,
that
yeah.
crystallize in the hive?
Um, no, not really. It will if you leave it on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I tend to do with canola honey is that I don't extract it, but I build my mating nukes with it.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so canola comes at a really convenient time, which is right at the start of my mating season.
Oh, so
And
the
so,
pickup.
yeah, so I bring my colonies off canola, build my mating nukes, and I put those frames full of canola honey in with the mating nukes. And
Yeah.
it's the first sort of food the bees get for their first round of mating. So I'm not really sure how long it takes to crystallize. I do remember in my first few years of beekeeping, extracting it and having it go really crystallized very fast in the jars, but I haven't taken it off since maybe 10 years now.
Yeah. 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 Well, we kind of realize that it's going to be a sort of a fact that it will crystallize. So if we take it off, we'll sell it as quick as we can as raw honey, and people will consume it just as quick. Um, but we have a lot of avenues to move it. So, um, we sold a lot of honey to some of the brewers around here. Mead seems to be on the up. Everybody's looking at trying to do mead now. So those guys don't care if it's crystallized because they're going to add water to it and mix it up and warm it up and use that. Um, we also work with a company called Good and Fugly, and they deal with a lot of farm sort of crop waste, eggplants that look funny, tomatoes that don't aren't to fit the shape, things like that. So they took a lot of our honey that we'd already jarred that had crystallized that we didn't sell, and then sold it as rescue honey, and that was a huge hit. People understood it was like an education campaign. This is what happens. This is really good, that sort of thing. We love working with those guys. And the other thing is going, all right, well, if it's going to crystallize, let's control the crystallization. And we just started creaming it. And that's like our number one seller over everything else is creamed honey. It's like people remember it from when they were kids and they love it. So we've got our raw honey and we do honey with honeycomb. We do honeycomb on its own and the creamed honey. And the creamed honey is like 3-1, number one seller. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, great.
Oh, yeah, we bought a creamer and we just sort of control the crystallization. But we also bought um like a small, not a shipping container, smaller than that, um, back of an old refrigerated truck that we keep at 27.5 degrees and just hold any honey that we have off that's raw. So it's not heated, but it doesn't go below 18 or what's it crystallize at 14? I think it's something like that. So we just sort of hold it steady until we jar it and things like that. So like settling tanks, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. Really interesting to hear about the creamed honey. Well, thanks for going through those questions with us. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your business, how people can find you?
Yeah, on Insta, Sunny Times Honey, or on the website, sunnytimeshoney.com.au. Um, or yeah, those are about the two avenues where we are on socials. But you'll probably find us, I think, uh, through the distributor, really good people. We sort of have about 70 plus stores, almost in every, I think we're missing Tasmania. That's the only, I don't think we can get honey into Tassie, which is fine because they got great honey down there. Um, but every other state, yeah, we've managed to sort of we sort of aim for like that Providor, Delhi, up there with the chili oils and those sort of products. And yeah, it's just a nice, simple product. My partner Mishi does all the design and the labeling, so she makes it look beautiful and yeah, it sells really well. So we can't keep up with demand. I think this is going to be the first year where we're going to have to actually buy honey. I've got a couple of friends in the valley that are beekeepers, and it sort of it hurts the pride to have to buy honey, but where it comes from. You know the beekeepers, it's the same landscape. So yeah, I think this will be the first year where we become sort of honey packers, I guess, and start bottling other people's honey as well. So but that could just be the next sort of evolution of the business. Yeah, it's going really well so far.
Yeah, sometimes it can work really well buying other people's honey. A friend of mine last year, he had his hives on the same kind of area that I had mine for the summer crop, which was messmate. And I found out that he had his hives there, and I thought, I'd love to buy some of that honey because I know it's going to be the exact same as what I'm getting. And
Yes.
it's my favorite honey around here. So, sometimes it can really work out in your favor like that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's interesting too. I guess that's something that we it's not that we can't do it, but we don't do it. Is the varietals. We don't sort of break it up. This is brush box, this is ironbark, this is stringy, or this is white mahogany, or on and on. It just comes on so fast. We've got pretty much from August till December to catch it, and that's pretty much it. Um, and you'll see it on a frame, where it'll just fade from ironbark into brush box or stringy into white mahogany or something like that. So we take it off as the bees put it on. Every year is different. Sometimes all the bloodwoods will flower and sometimes the ironbarks don't do anything. Every year it changes and it's just sort of I wouldn't call it a blend. It's more just like this landscape recipe that we just love tasting every year. So um, it's yeah, it'd be interesting to do the varietals, but we just sort of keep it as it is, pure and simple. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thanks so much, Aidan, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I got to say, I'm a big fan of the podcast. I know this is a new one, but the other one you're doing, yeah, you've had some great guests and you're asking all the right questions. So, yeah, keep it up, man. Good work.